Hey, what up everybody, this is Stevie Breach coming to you. Last night I was able to watch SummerSlam 1994. Undertaker versus Undertaker, known as one of the worst SummerSlams of all time. I don't know why I watched this. I think maybe it was just the thought of watching the Undertaker versus Undertaker match. Not seeing it in a real long time. I can honestly say to you that this is the show that you desperately want to stay away from. There is 3 good matches on this card. 3 of them that are very rarely talked about. You got a Razor Ramon versus Diesel match involving Shawn Michaels and Walter Payton. You have the Tonka versus Lex Luger. One of the biggest feuds of 1994 involving Tonka saying Lex Luger had turned on all of the fans in the United States of America with the Lex Express and everything like that. Basically saying that Lex Luger had joined the $1 Million Corporation with Ted DiBiase. And then, of course, Bret the Hitman Hart versus Owen Hart in a steel cage match from SummerSlam of 1994. Most of the time when people think about Bret versus Owen, you think of the WrestleMania 10 match. You don't really think of this one, but honestly, this is a really good match. It honestly isn't one of those 5-star classics, but this one involving the steel cage. Bret and Owen, they go out there, they get 30 minutes worth of time. This is more than double than any other match on the card. Was really good stuff. This was one of the shows, though, honestly, that once the main event was over, I had a hard time remembering anything that I had seen in the last hour. It just sort of seems like I sat there, I watched the show, I didn't really retain a whole lot. It just was on. Nothing really was great. Nothing really grabbed at me to really... sometimes, I sit here with my iPad, and as I'm watching something, I might want to do some research to find out, what started this feud, where did the guys go after this feud, how far did they go after this before they got their first break into winning a championship, things like that. I just sat here and watched it. Opening match was IRS and Bam Bam Bigelow, $1 Million Corporation, going up against the Head Shrinkers. They won that match. Alondra Blaze wrestled against Bull Nakano for the Women's Championship match. A match that at this time only seemed like they had 2 divas or women in the women's division. We've seen this 1,000 times. Blaze beat Nakano. And the next match was Razor Ramon, who came to the ring with Walter Payton, going up against Diesel and Shawn Michaels. It makes no sense to me. Diesel and Shawn Michaels, the dudes with attitudes, were the WWF Tag Team Champions at this time. I don't understand why you go into SummerSlam, your second biggest show of the year, and Shawn Michaels isn't involved in this in some sort of wrestling fashion. How, maybe he couldn't wrestle maybe Jeff Jarrett, why he couldn't wrestle maybe anybody else that was on the roster at this time, why he's just sort of managing Diesel. Diesel came into the WWF as the manager of Shawn Michaels, and now it seems that, Shawn Michaels is playing second fiddle. Maybe there was a backstory, maybe, they asked Shawn to drop some sort of a title, and maybe he didn't want to go along with what was going down, so maybe he just worked his way through. He wasn't going to work SummerSlam. Maybe he was injured. I have no clue. I couldn't find any information out. But basically, Razor Ramon, he had the advantage worked against him. He came to the ring with Walter Payton because the show was held in Chicago, the big hometown pop for the famous Bears Hall of Famer. Diesel and Shawn Michaels used the advantage. There's times when Shawn is getting into the ring and he's helping Diesel work down on Razor Ramon. The finish comes when Diesel is holding Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels goes for the super kick. He accidentally kicks Diesel in the face. Razor Ramon rolls up Diesel, 1, 2, 3. The hometown pop for Walter Payton's boy, winning the Intercontinental Championship. No word on what linked Razor Ramon, from Florida or Cuba, however, I can't remember where he was built from. I thought he was built from Miami, Florida. I don't know why I thought of Cuba. Maybe it's because of his accent. But, why they were linked together, but that's just what they went with. It's a Tonka versus Lex Luger, one of the best feuds that nobody really remembers. I think it all came down to a steel cage match on Monday Night Raw. I still remember that match like there was no tomorrow. I think when I'm done with this, I'm going to go see if I can find that on the WWE Network. I remember having a tape, VHS tape, Raw Hits, back in the day, and seeing that on there 1,000 times. Tonka got the win over Lex Luger when Ted DiBiase came down to the ring with one of those WWF duffel bags full of money, and was showing the money to Lex Luger, and Lex Luger was like, "Yo, I don't want your money. I'm not with you. I'm a good guy. I don't want it." Basically, because of this, Tonka, ran up, rolled up Lex 1, 2, 3. He got the win. After a good exchange between Lex Luger, looking like he was going to beat up Ted DiBiase. Tonka finally attacked Lex Luger, showing off that he was the one that was joining the $1 Million Corporation. And the feud would go on from there. Jeff Jarrett beat Mabel when Mabel tried to squash him off the top rope. Missed him. Jeff Jarrett rolled him up for the 1, 2, 3. Bret Hart beat Owen in front of the whole the whole Hart family who was ringside for this. You had a returning Davey Boy Smith sitting front row. A few rows behind him was Jim the Anvil Neidhart. You had Bruce, you had Stu, you had Helen. All of them were all out there with all of their family, taking up the first 3 rows of, not camera side, but, where the aisle side is, I guess you can say. Bret throws Owen into the steel cage head first. He gets tangled up into the cage. Because Owen's leg is sticking through the cage and wrapped around the bars, Bret's able to climb up over the top to the outside. Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who's sitting at ringside, jumps over the barricade, attacks Davey Boy Smith, who's celebrating the win. He attacks Bret Hart. They throw Bret Hart back into the cage. Him and Owen lock the cage door. That enables them to beat down on Bret, and as the whole Hart clan tries to jump into the cage, they outnumber them, knocking them down where they have the strict advantage. They go to a cutscene showing how the Undertaker versus Undertaker feud came to be, so you don't ever actually see how they got out of the cage. I understand you want to beat down Bret, who's inside of the cage, but basically, if everybody on the outside is trying to get in, and there's more of them than there are you, you're not going to be able to get out of that cage. You've cornered yourself in, and Bret's going to get up sooner than later. Undertaker versus Undertaker was basically going back to the Royal Rumble. Undertaker was facing Yokozuna for the WWF Championship. Undertaker was attacked by the whole heel roster, who threw him into the casket. They shut the casket. Because he was put into the casket, Undertaker was risen up to the heavens. And he was gone for a long time. He missed WrestleMania in 1994. Because of that, they started doing some sort of vignettes where people started claiming they saw the Undertaker. I remember a little kid saying they saw Undertaker sliding down the slide at a park. A guy came in and said that Undertaker ordered a sandwich. A firefighter said that he saw Undertaker inside of a fire in sort of a smoky corner of a house. Things like that. And then Ted DiBiase came up on the scene. Ted DiBiase said that since he was the one who brought the Undertaker to WWF, he knew where he was, and he had gone and he'd got him, and he was bringing him back. And we started seeing Undertaker show up in interviews, and basically with Ted DiBiase doing the talking, showing that he had become a heel. And then Paul Bearer showed up and said that he had the wrong Undertaker. Undertaker had finally been found, and Paul Bearer was bringing him back. Which set up SummerSlam, with Undertaker versus Undertaker, one wearing purple, one wearing gray, is the only way you're able to keep them apart. Plus, you can look into the ring and see that Brian Lee is maybe 3 to 4 inches smaller. They do look a hell of a lot alike. But it just wasn't close enough. It was a good, like that much on my television. You were able to tell which one was which one. Undertaker won. He was able to get the win over the bad Undertaker, and we never saw heel Undertaker ever again. WWE tried this again with, of course, fake Kane, which was Luke Gallows coming in and attacking regular Kane. They had one match on a pay-per-view, and they decided, you know what, maybe we were right in SummerSlam in 1994, saying there was no legs to this, and getting it over with and done with. SummerSlam 1994 honestly goes down as one of the worst SummerSlams that I've watched on these stretch of shows. Stick away from SummerSlam 1994. Nothing to see here. Peace out.